What does it take to do more, live more, and be more, when our programming, our culture, and our society are all designed to keep us right here where we are? And for the most part, that is in a state of dissatisfaction, of unease, and of unfulfilled potential. How can we really fulfill our potential and live beyond the day-to-day, the mundane struggles and the mediocrity, in order to spread our wings and fly to the highest altitudes of our potential? And how can we follow in the footsteps of Maya Angelou when she said, "My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, and some humour and some style." It can be done. We can live extraordinary lives, and we can be extraordinary people. And the truth is, we already are. We just don't know how to step into it. But Ken Lindner might just have an idea. I'm Chris Brock, and this is Conversations on Living, a podcast about how to be well, do well, and live well. And that mission statement is well suited to Ken's message. Ken is the founder of one of America's largest news and hosting agencies, representing some of the biggest names in network journalism. But more importantly, for this podcast at least, is that he is the author of a number of books about how we can all take the steps necessary to transform our lives and realise our greatness. His most recent book, Aspire Higher, is literally a call to action, offering us some straightforward advice about how to find out what we want from life and how to take the steps necessary to realise it. You can find out more about Ken at his website, www.kenlindner.com, that's LINDNER.com, along with links to buy his book from all the main online retailers such as Barnes & Noble and Amazon. And of course you can also find it in real bricks and mortar bookshops. Before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to the guys at Headliner. Headliner is the app or the service that I use to create audiograms. They're little clips of audio with visual graphics. There's a picture behind it often. You get waveforms, you get captions, that kind of thing. You've probably seen them on social media. They're what I use to market the podcast. And if you host a podcast, this is one of the best ways to do it. And audiograms are a great way of kind of giving a little teaser about what your episode is about. Headliner is very easy to use, very powerful, so check it out. That's at www.headliner.app. And also a word about Plane. Plane is a meditation game. It's a game that encourages you to create an island using the power of mindfulness, and in the process learn some basic relaxation, meditation, and general mindfulness techniques. So if you want to get into mindfulness and meditation but you don't know where to start, but you do like video games, then Plane is the way forward. Just search for meditation game on Google and it's going to be one of the first ones that comes up, or you can go straight to plane.co. That's PLAYNE.co. And also a quick request from me to rate, review and subscribe to this podcast. Wherever you get it, wherever you find it, just give us a little rating, a little 5-star if you like it, hint, hint, and spread the word, because it all helps for us to attract good quality guests, have great conversations and keep the ball rolling about how we can all, fulfill our potential and live the lives we came here to live. Okay, so that's enough from me. Time to get into this conversation with Ken. And this is a really empowering and encouraging conversation. So settle in, relax, and get ready to aspire higher as I chat with the generous and wise Ken Lindner. So Ken, thank you so much for your time today. You're in Los Angeles. I'm just outside London. So it's morning where you are and evening where I am. And we're kind of coming together to talk about Aspire Higher. And some of your other general kind of philosophies about life, about how we can live just more fulfilled, happier lives, especially in these turbulent times. I think turbulent is probably a bit of an understatement. But we all need a bit of hope, maybe a bit of guidance to how we can get the most out of life. And Aspire Higher seems to be a good place to start. So maybe you could give us a little bit of background about the book and where it's come from and what you're aiming to do with it.
Well, great. It's a pleasure to be with you, Chris. And I am the founder of Positive Life Choice Psychology. And I believe that your life choices are essential to living your best life. If you can make positive life choices that reflect your highest self your highest values and your highest goals, you'll feel really good about who you are, how you conduct your life, and that will motivate you to make great decisions moving forward. And as a result, you will continue to build a really positive life for yourself, continue to instill feelings of high self-esteem and high self-worth. And what I talk about in Aspire Higher is self-love. And when you love yourself, you're far more likely to do really good things for yourself because you see that you can affect positive change in your life and you love the change that's taking place. But also, if you love yourself and your heart is filled with love, you're far more likely to bestow that love on others. So that's the core concept, Chris. You know, as you mentioned in your open, these are turbulent times. You know, when you watch the news, you see shootings and lootings and stories about racism and runaway inflation and obviously COVID and the devastating effects of global warming. And there's so many people that are demoralized. They feel psychologically stuck because they don't see a way up or a way out of these troubled times. So I wrote Aspire Higher to give everyone the clear and actionable steps to make positive life choices, as I said, to reflect your highest self and your highest values so that you instill feelings of high self-esteem and self-worth in your heart. And by doing that, as I talk about in Inspire Higher, you're motivated to live your very best and highest life.
Do you think there's a bit of a stigma that somehow, because we are so attached to kind of suffering in a way, there's a little bit of nobility in being perhaps unhappy or impoverished or struggling somehow? Do you think there is a bit of a stigma attached to being happy, and that in a way gets in the way of us living a happy and fulfilled life? Because in a way we feel guilty about being happy, especially when there is so much turmoil in the world.
Well, I think that's an incredible question. You know, I'd like to address the part about happiness first. You know, there are so many books out there and people talking about be happy, you know, act happy. And I think that is valid up to a point. But when something happens to you that cuts you to the core, when something unexpected and bad happens, when a life detour occurs, oftentimes we fall like a house of cards because we don't have the right foundation, and all of that philosophy of think happy goes down the drain, and we tend to make bad decisions because when we're hurt, when we are fearful, when we feel resentment, when we feel lonely, when toxic emotions cloud our best judgment and hijack us, we tend to make decisions that make us feel good for the moment, but they aren't necessarily consistent with our long-term and highest values and goals, because you need discipline quite often, and you have to delay gratification sometimes to go for the things that really matter in life. And if you don't feel good about yourself, the chances are you're not going to be disciplined enough to make those great life choices. So what I have done in Aspire Higher is give people actionable, clear steps, as I said, to learn how to make great life choices. For example, start small. Start making choices that you can make, that you can secure victories with, whether it's eating the right way, going out and getting exercise, not reacting or pressing the send button when somebody pushes your emotional buttons. And when you start to make small and more important life choices, one after another, you start to feel like you can do this, like you can master and control the things you can control. And that gives you the confidence, the positive reinforcement to continue to do it. It's like losing the first 5 pounds on a diet. You look good, you feel good. So you are positively reinforced to continue to make great dietary choices. It's the same thing with life choices. Start small, start getting those victories, and then you'll start to make more and more life choices. Again, you get the confidence that you can affect positive change in your life, and you begin to develop feelings of high self-esteem and high self-worth. And if you feel good about yourself, you begin to feel worthy and deserving of the better life you're crafting. And that's so important, because if you feel worthy and deserving, you're not going to fall like a house of cards when something bad, unexpected happens. Somebody says something to you that really hurts you. Whatever it is, you've developed a foundation of high self-esteem and high self-worth and self-love. And if you love yourself, you can do good things for yourself. Now, to go back to your other question, Chris, about do we feel guilty about wanting to be happy or having a better life for ourselves when we see what's going on in Ukraine and in other situations where people are suffering? I think that people who have high self-esteem and feelings of high self-worth will certainly be compassionate and empathetic and want to help others. But I don't think they will feel guilty necessarily for trying to live their best life, because again, they feel worthy and deserving of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very hard though, isn't it? Because we have a kind of a culture in a way, a whole system of the world that is kind of here for the instant gratification. We've got fast food being advertised to us. We've got all of these kind of material lives, holidays, fast cars, all of these kind of things that, you will be happy if you have the big house and the fast car and the amazing holiday and the new watch. And it's all about instant gratification, and it's all about reminding you you're not as pretty as the people on TV. You're overweight, but look at how you could be if you just bought our product or whatever it is. There's a whole kind of culture, kind of working to keep you in this kind of sense of being dissatisfied with yourself and who you are. How can we find the kind of courage and the faith, if you like, to keep going and turning up and making those small steps, even if we're not seeing the results yet, and we've got this kind of deluge of pressure on us from advertising or the news media or whatever it is? How can we keep showing up and saying, I'm going to do me, and I'm going to keep doing me until I start seeing results?
Right. Well, I'm going to use myself as an example of how this process works. When I was a youngster, long story short, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. My dad really worked hard, and 6 days a week and many evenings. So as a 3 and 4 and 5-year-old, I intuited my mom must love me because she's always home. My dad probably doesn't love me because he's always working. I didn't realize my dad was working really hard to give me the education he never had. And he so loved me. But I didn't know that when I was 4 and 5. And I just compared where my mom was with my dad as far as the attention I got. And as a result, I longed for my dad's approval. And when he wasn't around for me to get it, I used to binge eat. I just all of a sudden go and have, a box of cookies or a piece of cheesecake or whatever it was, and I became obese. And it wasn't until I became athletic, because I bonded with my dad athletically, and I became something called a paddle tennis player, which is very much like tennis. It's a smaller court. And I saw for the first time in my life that I could do something well. And it gave me feelings of mastery and high self-esteem. And when I felt really good about myself, because I saw that I could do something well and I was good at it, I started to forego the food because I found values that were more important. One, wanting my dad's approval by being a good paddle tennis player. So by being thinner, I was better. I was more agile. I was faster. And I also loved the great attention I was getting for the first time in my life of doing something well. Um, I also wanted the attention of girls in my first and second and third year grade classes because they related to me more, or maybe, or I should say fifth and sixth grade, more on a, in quote, romantic basis rather than, you know, the overweight kid who couldn't fit into the clothes that most kids could wear because I had to shop in the husky section. And I started to make good dietary choices because I found motivators that led me to forego the food. My dad's love and attention, because I knew that by being a good athlete and we could play ball together, I got attention from him that was positive. I got positive attention from the girls in my class. And when I looked in the mirror, I felt good about myself. I no longer had to shop in the husky section. I could wear the jeans that other kids could wear. So it allowed me to fit in. So all of those motivations got me to lose weight and continue to make really good dietary choices. And the way I equate making positive life choices is when you start to make positive life choices, as I mentioned earlier, Chris, and you like the results, you see your life elevating, you feel good about the life you're creating for yourself, that positively reinforces you to continue to make good life choices. And that's how I believe, again, you don't fall like a house of cards. And that's how you start to develop really great habits, and you're willing to delay gratification. So again, going back to my tennis life, Chris, when I started playing tennis tournaments and I went around the country playing national tournaments, we were invited to parties every night, and we were invited to go here and there. And because I wanted to do well in the tournament, and because I felt I could do well in the tournament, because when I got my sleep, I played better, I was able to forego the most wonderful invitations to go out and party on boats and ranches and beautiful homes and go to bed early, because all of that high self-esteem, my knowing that if I did delay gratification, if I did forego that instant gratification, going to the party, I would fare better. And when I fared better, and when I did go and win the match, or at least play well, that positively reinforced me to continue to delay gratification and being disciplined in a world of immediate gratification. So I believe if you can make positive life choices, small ones at the beginning, more important ones once you get the hang of it, you start to develop strong feelings of confidence and mastery and ownership. And I believe that's the way you start to delay gratification and be disciplined.
Does that have to come a point where you kind of think, I've had enough of this now, and this is too uncomfortable, and that's when you start to make the shift and you start to kind of try and take control of things and find the self-discipline to maybe when it comes to Friday not have that beer, or not get that takeaway food, and then to feel better on the Saturday morning. Is there a kind of pain point required before you kind of get this ball rolling, do you think?
Well, in the film, Jerry Maguire, there was a great line, break down, break through. And, that's an interesting point, because you would think when you reach rock bottom, the only way to go is up. But I'm not sure. I mean, for some people that probably has happened. But I'm not sure about that, because oftentimes when you reach rock bottom and your confidence is at the lowest ebb possible, you would think that you would continue to make poor choices for yourself because you don't really believe you have the ability to lift your game, to lift your life. That's why I think it's so important, from no matter where you are, and I talk about this in Aspire Higher, and I give steps that how to jumpstart your life no matter where you are. I think it's important to start making those positive life choices. Start doing good things for yourself. Start good things such as surround yourself with positive people. Get rid of the people who are toxic. Put yourself in situations that are encouraging for you, that are good for you, that are healthy for you. Those are little steps, or maybe bigger steps, but that will start to make you feel like, I did this. I can do it. And the key really is people have to feel they can do it. And once you've done it, you know you can do it again. It's really interesting. I remember years and years and years ago when Tiger Woods was in his heyday, winning all of the big golf tournaments. He was down by 5 strokes going into the final round of this huge tournament. He came back and won the tournament by 1 stroke. And the commentator at the end of the tournament said, Tiger, what was your mindset going in 5 strokes down and having 2 or 3 people ahead of you that you had to leapfrog over? Tiger succinctly and confidently said, I've done it before. I can do it again. I knew I could do it again. And that's the point. When you start making small and then bigger choices and you get your victories, what you know is you can do it. And when you know you can do it, not think you can do it, not hope you can do it, but when you know you can do it, that's the kind of confidence that helps you navigate any stormy waters. You know you can make positive choices no matter what's going on. And I have always tried to be the most constructive decision maker possible. And I truly believe that after all of these years, in most instances, there is a constructive way, a positive solution, even to the most horrible life detour, most heinous situation that I or someone I'm counseling is facing. We can figure it out most of the time. So I have confidence that through my having made life choices that are positive, through being creative, through being constructive, through finding the steps to transcend situations and come out with a positive result, I can do it again.
Do you think it is a belief problem that we have? Most of the time we're just trying to get through the day. We're trying to kind of get through the day. We're trying to pay the bills. We're
Yes.
trying to get through, just get from kind of morning to evening without any conflict or without any major problems. Do you think that maybe we're not aspiring high enough?
Well, Chris, that brings up a wonderful point, because in Aspire Higher, I talk about the fact that one of the steps that's so important for everybody to take is take quiet time and think about what you really want for your life. Think about what will make your heart sing. And don't think about what will make others' hearts sing for you, meaning that expectations of significant others for you can be an incredible load and can be really harmful. You have to figure out what's right for you, what your parents want for you necessarily, not what your teachers want, not what your employers want, not what your spouse or partner wants. You've got to figure out what will make your heart sing. Because if you're living somebody else's life and trying to meet somebody else's expectations, you could wind up being on a path of huge bitterness and resentment because you're doing things for other people. You're not really following your dreams. So I think it is very important. If you're going to be a great decision maker, how can you make a great decision if you don't know what you really, really want? If you don't know what will make your heart sing long term and the kind of person you want to be, the way you want to conduct your life. So I think the first step in really getting your life going and aspiring higher is knowing what you really want, what your goals are, what your dreams are, and the kind of way you want to conduct yourself that makes you feel really good about yourself. Because again, if you feel really great about yourself, in all likelihood, you'll do good things for yourself.
That's a really big thing, though, isn't it? Because I mean, I think if you do know what you want, then you can set yourself on a course to get there. But I think for a lot of people, me included, we don't know ultimately what we want or what we want to do or what the kind of path we want to follow is. So we kind of do a little bit of everything, but when that doesn't immediately transform into huge success, we lose heart and we kind of give up a little bit. How do we know how do we really get to the root and find what we want from life?
Well, I do it by getting away from the hustle and bustle of the daily grind. Because you said it yourself, we have so many things to do. We have our bills to pay. We have to pick up our kids. We have to do this. We have to do that. We have our work. So many things that we're doing. We have to break through the clutter. We have to take really quiet time and search what I call our heart of hearts, so that we know what we want. And if we don't know exactly what we want, how about what makes us happy? What are we good at? What will put a smile in our hearts and on our faces? And don't be afraid or defensive, meaning that don't be afraid to say, this is what I really want, even if you think people will laugh, even if you think you're embarrassed or there are too many obstacles. I will tell you, the people that are the achievers, I really believe, what do they say? If you can see it, you can be it. And I truly believe that the first step in helping you self-actualize, be all you can be, is knowing what it is that makes you happy, knowing what will put a smile in your heart and on your face, and knowing what you love to do, and maybe what you would, what your dream is. So you don't have to go for your dream today. Maybe take steps to get there. Figure out what those steps are. I wrote a book before Aspire Higher, Chris, called Career Choreography. And the definition for me of career choreography or choreography is that there's a logical set of steps that anyone can take to put the percentages in their favor that they can attain their goals and live their dreams. You just have to figure out what those logical steps are. And that's whether it's a career or anything else. Once you know what you really want, figure out the steps, the baby steps, the attainable steps to give you the best chance to attain your goals. You're not going to attain every goal, but give it your best shot. Figure out strategically what to do.
Are those steps the same for everyone? Is it the same structure that can be applied to kind of anybody's life, or does it have to be kind of uniquely tailored to who you are, what you want, that kind of thing?
I think it's uniquely tailored. And the reason why is one of the things I tell all of my clients, and my profession, besides being an author, is I own arguably one of the most successful news and hosting representation firms in the world. And we represent many of the most well-known and well-respected broadcast journalists in the United States. And one of the strategies that I tell them about is lead with your strength, meaning that when you want to attain a goal, one of the things that will help you jumpstart yourself is know what it is that you do well, or know what your assets are. For example, I wanted to become an author, and I had this great idea for a life choice book for kids. But the problem was that at that time, I wasn't a parent and I'm not a psychologist. And although I thought the book had tremendous merit, nobody bought it. I mean, it was dead in the water. I just didn't have the credibility. So I went back and I said, okay, my goal is to become a self-help author. How do I do that? So I thought, you know what? Let me lead with my strength. And my strength is I represent all of these well-known broadcasters. Why don't I write a book about decision-making for broadcasters? What do broadcasters need to know to self-actualize and have their most successful and fulfilling careers? So I went to the library, and then I checked, and I went to bookstores, and I saw all the books on broadcasting that had been published. And I saw the kinds of books that had been published by which publishers. So I knew which publishers I should approach. And I saw that there weren't any books out there like the one I wanted to write. So instead of just writing a proposal, I wrote the whole book because I wanted these potential publishers to see everything that I know and to see the great client list that I had. And I sent it to 5 publishers. 3 of them were interested and made offers. And I wound up publishing my first book, Broadcasting Realities. So I led with my strength, first of all, to become an author. So then when my book came out, I was in the club. And then when I was giving a talk at a big broadcasting convention, I decided, like a comedian who tries out new jokes one day at a gig to see how they go, I decided to talk about the emotional component of decision making, because everybody talked about the cognitive component of decision making. Well, you've got to do this, this, and this. But my theory was that's all great, but when your emotions cloud your best judgment, when you're angry, when you're hurt, when you're resentful, when you're fearful, when you're lonely, you tend to lose your best judgment because you react immediately. You become impulsive. And that's oftentimes the worst thing you can do when wanting to make a really great decision. And I talked about that. And then after my speech, an ex-Oprah show producer came up to me and said, nobody's ever talked about the emotional component of decision making. You really have something there. She said, you should write the book. And 3 or 4 years later, I came out with a book called Your Killer Emotions, which became an Amazon bestseller. And all of a sudden, I'm in the self-help author club. And it all started, and then I've written 4 more books since then. And it all started with leading with my strength. That was, I knew what I had to offer, which somebody wanted. That was my broadcasting knowledge. And then I needed to find the right, party. And that was somebody who published broadcasting books. So the key really is, there are certain things I talk about in Aspire Higher and also in Career Choreography about how to lead with your strength and many other strategies. So I guess the long-winded answer to your question, Chris, is I think there are certain strategies that everybody can use, but the strategies themselves are unique to each person because each person has unique strengths, unique gifts, unique dreams.
Do you think a certain sense of kind of self-awareness is vital if we're going to kind of go down this route of personal development? Kind of, sense of kind of, there are things I love to do, but I'm not very good at. Even though I'd love to be great at them, there are things I'd love to do, but there are other things which I am good at. And it's being kind of self-aware enough to know kind of, I'd love to be a professional footballer, for example, but I keep tripping over my own feet, even though I pretend, to myself that I'm really great at it. But there are other things which are much more kind of focused. Is there a kind of requirement that we are a little bit self-aware? And, you talk about the emotional aspect of things, not allowing our emotions to cloud our judgment and kind of get ideas above our station, if you like.
Absolutely, Chris. Self-awareness and objectivity are really key, because the key is you have to be honest with yourself, because how can you take the right steps if you're not honest with yourself? If you're not saying, well, I'm good at this, but I have no experience in this other area. And it's really important. Or at the moment, I'm not very good at that area. I mean, you have to be honest, and you can't shield yourself from the reality that, I'm not that good in this area, because that's how you get better. You have to be honest. So self-awareness and honesty, objectivity. Do not rationalize. Do not sort of hide the fact that there are certain things that you need to work on, because how are you going to grow if you don't know what you need to shore up, to improve? The only way to evolve and grow is by knowing what you need to do. It's sort of like going to a doctor and not telling them what your problem is. And the doctor goes, well, what the heck are you here for? I mean, you've got to tell a doctor, well, my throat hurts. My arm is like falling off. That way, the doctor knows what to do, knows what steps to take. Well, same thing with us. If we're going to improve, grow, evolve, we need to know what we do really well, and we need to know what to improve upon, shore up, learn more about.
Do you think that if by kind of facing up to those, because those can be quite difficult questions, those things, to kind of really know my strengths, I also have to be aware of my weaknesses, and that can be a bit bruising to the ego, maybe. But do you think if we're brave enough and find the courage to tackle those questions, that anyone can sort of transform their lives into a life of real kind of exquisite and an amazing existence?
Well, absolutely. I go back to what we discussed earlier. I think if you can start making positive life choices that give you feelings of high self-esteem and high self-worth and self-love, you've got the confidence to say, I'm not good at this, but I can be better. If you're defensive and you're feeling really insecure people aren't going to start saying, I'm not really good at this, because they already feel they're not good at enough or not good enough, because that's why they feel insecure, because they don't feel good enough. So I really believe, as a way to develop the foundation so that you can look at things objectively, I think making positive life choices so that you see that you can control the things you can control. I mean, there are a lot of things in life you can't control. Certain things just happen. So I talk about this in Aspire Higher. Certain things in life happen to you. They're meant to be, if you believe in that. And then there are things you can control: your decisions, your emotions, your acts, your attitude. All of those things you can control. Aspire Higher is all about learning to and mastering the things you can control. And one of the first things is to make choices. The choices to be disciplined, the choice to delay gratification, the choice to want something better and believe you can attain it. And then the choice to start making small choices that when you secure your victories again, you start to develop that strong foundation, and the motivation to want more, because you feel you can attain it. And the other part of it is, Chris, I'm a tennis player, as I mentioned. And when you're playing tennis, especially singles, you're out there by yourself. You don't have a team, and you rarely have a coach that can, or you don't have a coach that can say, you're having a bad day, Kenny. I'm going to bring in Bruce. Well, that doesn't happen in singles and tennis. Either you get it right or you lose. Either you assimilate data and say, am I losing because I'm not playing his backhand and his backhand is not as good as his forehand? Am I not playing the wind right? Does he like harder hit balls rather than loopy balls? Since there are very few Rafael Nadals and Roger Federers out there, or Serena Williams, everybody's got some weaknesses or lesser strengths that can be exploited if you're good enough and sharp enough, one, to figure them out, and two, to truly effectively exploit them. But as a tennis player, I continue to assimilate data throughout the match. If I'm winning, do I stick with this strategy? How long do I stick with this strategy? If I'm losing, what do I need to do differently? What's not working for me? Why are they so comfortable with what I'm giving them? And I believe that it's very much like life. You assimilate data all day. What am I doing right? What could I have done better? What am I doing wrong? How could I be more sensitive? How can I be more empathetic? How can I be a better person? And that takes honesty to be able to say, I could have done that better. But that's how you grow. And hopefully everybody can be strong enough to say, you know what? I need to honestly improve here. I could have done this better. But also acknowledge when you do something really well, because that makes you feel good and gives you the confidence that I am a good person. I am talented. I did this right. So the key is almost do your own self-help by assimilating data all day, every day, to be the best person you can be. And when you don't do something that isn't what you would like it to be, then next time, figure out what that is, and then next time, do it better. You can't imagine how empowering that is to keep improving on your own.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose this idea of, if something isn't working for you, then change it and focusing on something different, and keep changing, keep adjusting until you start to go in a direction that suits you better and is kind of making you happier, delivering results that kind of, result in that kind of positive feeling of empowerment, of self-esteem, those kind of things.
And Chris, there's one other thing. I was just going to say that, you led me to think of something else. And that is, when I played tennis early on, I took calculated risks. I tried poaching a little bit more. I tried hitting it harder. I tried going down the line. I tried doing things that I hadn't done before. And sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. But it's the way I grew to become a better player. And, to analogize that to life, if you are afraid to take risks because you're insecure, you'll never grow. And in fact, you'll stick with the same scripts. And if they're not effective for you, you're going to remain in the same unsatisfying sort of cubbyhole. So you need to step out a little bit, step out of your comfort zone a little bit. Don't be afraid to take calculated risks that will elevate yourself, empower you, make you better.
Yeah, it reminds me of Aristotle. And he said something like, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember it exactly, but he said something like, if you want to be completely safe, do nothing, say nothing, and be nothing. And that's the only way you can ever remain safe, is just by being small and living a very small life.
Right.
But that's brilliant. I mean, if we want to find out about how we can all aspire higher and, get hold of the book and find out more about your writings and your wisdom, about how we can all lead better lives, what's the best place for us to kind of seek you out and seek the book out?
Well, my website is positivelifechoicepsychology.com. And you can get my books there, or Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, Walmart.com, Target.com. Any major bookseller will have Aspire Higher and Career Choreography and Your Killer Emotions. And Aspire Higher, I think, is the most comprehensive of my books, because it is sort of my greatest hits. It is my most evolved thinking. And I'm really proud of it, because I really believe, my mission, Chris, is to see what can be in people and help them take the steps, make the choices to fulfill their greatest potentials. And I believe that aspire higher really goes a long way in helping people be the best they can be and live their highest life so that they are fulfilled.
And I think it's great that the title is also a kind of call to action. We can all aspire higher, and we need to aspire higher, because that's when we really push ourselves to be, not settle for the daily grind and the mundane. Yes. Kind of instant gratification, and instead kind of use a little bit, and I'm sure it doesn't take much, but just a little bit more to nudge us out of those old patterns that have been kind of keeping us where we are for years and years. Then we can do that. And I think aspire higher is maybe the kind of call to arms that we all need at the moment. So, but that's brilliant. And I will leave it there, but thank you ever so much for your time today and your wise words. I think this particular episode of the podcast, I'm just going to call it Aspire Higher, because I think it's a great call to action, a rallying cry, if you like. So I'm ever so grateful for your time today.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be with you, and thank you for the great conversation.
Thanks so much. So there we go, a brilliant conversation that is so encouraging and empowering. If you want to continue the conversation, just head over to the Facebook group. Just search for Conversations on Living. And you can find out more about this and other episodes at our website. That's www.conversationsonliving.com. And there you can also find out about my writing, my books, my meditations. And there's also a monthly newsletter you can sign up to. And if you do, you'll get notified about all the stuff I've been up to, including this podcast. And there's also a little freebie to download as well. So check it out, and don't forget to rate, review and subscribe wherever you listen to this podcast. If you want to find out more about Ken, head over to his site as well. That's www.kenlindner.com. And that's it for another week. Next week I'll be talking to the brilliant Christina Crook about the joy of missing out. So don't miss that one. And in the meantime, have a lovely day.